Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Other Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This endgame study comes from the Ukrainian chess composer Filip Bondarenko. It's not the first one on this series, and you can bet it won't be the last one. This position is very interesting from the beginning. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you are better prepared for the practice. If you already are prepared, then the countdown of 10 minutes will start, and then I'll catch you up to start the beginning of the guided solution. And here we are. Let's go and start this one with a brilliant move. I don't know if it's unexpected or not. For me, it was when I was solving this one. Bishop h2, brilliant one. What's going on over here? So let's come back a bit. So let's look at the position. This is a very interesting position because immediately we can see that the pawns are blocking each other. And in the f file, we already have another pawn blocking our own f4 pawn. And so basically, there are only three files on the flanks. So over here, it's already defining some characteristics of the position. Besides that, we have a pass pawn for black and another one with a backup one on f4. But at the moment, let's look at the f5 pawn. So one possible way is, okay, we are more maybe facing here pound race. But the problem is, okay, white is going to promote, but there's a knight in the corner, so coming to the flank won't be that easy or that fast. And on the other side, well, the pawn is going to become a queen very soon, and our king is in that area of the board. So these are basically the first analysis that we do for the position. So with this in mind, what are the options we should analyze? Of course, removing the knight may be one possibility, so to prepare some interest from the future promoted pawn on the queen side, or something like then crash the knight against the pawn chains, and probably with the idea then if it takes, then we get one pawn very fast on the other side to promote. Other possible ideas to think is to remove the king, something like bring the bishop and the bishop taking care of the other pawn, which doesn't look very promising. And finally, going directly to the pawn race, of course. And we will see that why this also works, but not for the moment. So let's go with one of the first variations. Let's go with the knight. Well, over here it's very simple. Black simply advances the pawn, so now it's in the front of the pawn race. If we want to go with a pawn, it's not going to be enough. The pawn will promote very fast. So let's try the sacrificing of the knight on d5. But over here, if white was expecting the pawn to take, well, it's going to be surprised because we just go again with the pawn. Let's say we move the knight again. This is doesn't matter. Winning the pawns doesn't work because then check, and now the king needs to come back. We win the knight. It's an easy win for black from here. So this doesn't work. Nevertheless, it was necessary to calculate it. And the other option, let's say the king goes to f1, also doesn't work by the same motives. So we are going to advance the pawn. Maybe we can try to advance our nows, but now we are facing a check on the next move. So let's try bring the bishop, try to cover the check. So black just promotes the queen, so we cover it. And now, very simple, the king will come to help and checkmate our own king. So the king will come to d1. So, and after reaching d1, we have just this simple maneuver. Of course, going and taking the pawn directly would work, but of course, if we have better, let's go for that check. Of course, the king moving to g1 just allows the black king to take the bishop on e1. So let's delay it, not for many more moves, but nevertheless, let's delay it. Now the king takes the bishop. Notice that we are now threatening to come very fast. The queen can't find a way to cover anything. Notice that the paths are not possible. It will be trapped. So maybe the idea is to come and reach for the g4 pawn, but is not enough because of course we are going to check the king. The king is forced to go to h2. Now we move our own king from black perspective, of course, and when white takes the pawn, well, bye bye, checkmate. Okay, so this is all very good. So let's go for the final one before entering the main line. So let's go with the pawn race. Let's go. Let's see why this is not happening for white. So we get this position. This is already simple to see or to calculate. Now this queen is not doing anything. So let's remove the knight. So the idea is to use now the open a file for our queen to come and rescue the day. So now it's black to play for a win. There are more than one moves, but that is the same idea. That's just one idea. So a countdown, a short one of 1 minute will start. If you need more, don't worry, you can pause and think for a bit. And then I come back to show you how black win from here. And let's see then how black can win from here. And the idea is very simple. We are going to try to checkmate the enemy king. So we are going with the king to d3. Now, of course, the queen will try to come and disrupt that idea, but can't do much because we can move to d3. Notice that the queen can't check on a3 because our queen, from black perspective again, is covering that square. There are no checks on a6 also because the pawn is covering that. And of course we keep the queen if we get that sacrifice. So no tricks with the pawn advancing and promoting. And okay, now the queen comes to a2, only option, and now there is a simple maneuver to checkmate the enemy king. Of course, I won't stop the clock now. I am just going to show you. There's a check, so the king needs to come to f1, only move. Now we check it again, and the king comes back to f2, but we are not going to repeat moves with the queen. We have a better one, which is to advance the pawn. a3, check, and checkmate. So this is why going for the pawn race doesn't work. So coming back to the main line, we already know the brilliant move is to go with the bishop h2. But what's the idea behind this? Well, it's going to be obvious from some moves. So the pawn advance, black goes with c3. Now the king goes to g1, the pawn advances again, and the king finds a place in h1. So when the queen promotes, the bishop can block it and create this fortress. Notice that black can still attack one last pawn, but now the king protected. And so now it's black to play. Black goes with the king c2. So now it's another moment for you, another minute, pause for more, and find the continuation for white to play for a win. Okay, to understand what's going on, we need to understand why has black played king c2, what's going on over here. And suddenly we are going to discover that black is aiming to attack the weak g2 pawn. So let's say one variation, one simple variation, let's advance the pawn, so the king comes to d1, the pawn advances again, now we go to e2, the pawn promotes to the queen, so now we approach the weak pawn on g2. Maybe the queen now realized, well, I can't go and help it because there are no points of interest to help that pawn. Let's try to get the other one so the king can try to escape, but this is too slow, of course. Even if the queen sacrifice, notice that it's not going to avoid checkmate. So let's come back to when the king is on c2. And let's see what is the possibilities over here. So we already know black is going to place under attack this pawn. And one idea that I got was, okay, now I need to bring the knight where I want the knight to be placed. The only possible way is to place it in h4. So I went back, okay, need to come from g6, f8, e6, and then we get the pattern, the path for the knight to get in time to protect the pawn. Does that work? Well, protecting the pawn, yes. But what happens is, okay, let's go very fast. Now here we need to find, of course, f8. But if we go back from h4, it's simple to see that we need to go to f8 with our knight. Now the king entered in contact with the pawn, and we are just in time to protect the pawn. The problem is that we can't force it anymore. Notice that now it's white to play. What can white play? Okay, we can't move the knight. Let's go advance the pawn. But now black has time to grab the pawn. Now notice here that we only have one interesting move. Otherwise, we are just going to be checked and need to come back again. So we can use that. We can move the king. Now the queen takes the pawn. And let's say the queen comes back. And when it comes back, also black can't force it. So we are in the end kind of lucky to get a draw over here. But wasn't we trying to win this one? Yes. So this means bringing the knight is enough to stop the checkmate, but only gives white a draw. Okay. So what's going on then? Well, let's see some moves more ahead. Let's advance the pawn like as we already saw. Let's move the king closer. And now it's you to finish this one. It's white to play. Find the last plan for white to win this one, not to draw, to win this one. You get another minute, pause if you need more, and then I'll come back to finish with you the solution. And finally, let's go to the finish of this one. So you may be wonder, okay, haven't I saw this one before? Haven't we reached here and promote to the queen? And that was not avoiding the checkmate. Yes, it was. But the other option, of course, is to bring the knight. But of course, this variation is not in consideration because now we are too far away from the path of protecting the checkmating square. So what's going on? And the brilliant solution for this one is to promote the pawn, but to under promote knight. And now, brilliant move. Why? Because now the king moves again to contact the weak point on g4. So next move will bring the queen and go for checkmate, but we are in time to protect it with our knight. So now we have a new knight. We still keep the other one. So when the queen goes to a2, we still have the option to remove the knight and control any possible way for the black queen to go to the other side. And suddenly black realized, okay, I won't be able to stop the pawn. So over here, maybe black can try to sacrifice the queen, but this is not enough. We just grab it and then we can come back. Even if the pawn advances now, we are just going to get a queen very soon. Let's say the king moves. Now we wait for the promotion before sacrificing the bishop. And in the end, we get a queen and we get the winning of this endgame study. Of course, this is incredible when we saw this again from the beginning, the starting position. And after calculating so many possibilities, going with the knight, going with the king to bring the bishop to block it, and suddenly the solution was this brilliant fortress of bringing the king to h1 and then stopping the check with the bishop and then finally getting the queen to finish the fortress on h2 and then under promoting for a night. I think this is a brilliant study, and that's why I will come back again for sure with studies from this chess composer. Hope you have enjoyed also, and as always, I catch you up with future videos. Bye bye.